Yes, good morning, good morning, Harlem and Harlems of the world. I am Terri Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News. Harlem Network News is a new media platform. We started at the onset of COVID, and it has been an extremely significant journey. We knew that what we were doing was important because it is important that we tell our own stories. And COVID took the scab off the wound. And so we were very clear that our stories were not being told, or if they were being told, they weren't really being told correctly. So here we are, 2 years later. We will be celebrating our anniversary going into 3 years, which is pretty amazing. And we have had a great opportunity to really bring in a lot of our public officials, our artists, and just keep everyone informed as to what is going on in Harlem and Harlems of the world. So today we have extremely important and powerful guest with us today. And without further ado, of course, you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, HarlemNetworkNews.com, Clubhouse, and Twitter, and soon to be on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, because we want to assure that we can expand that audience, especially at this time. But we do have one of our honorable district leaders, and also our Harlem Network News political analyst, and that is in the embodiment of District Leader William Allen. If you would just say hello to the audience and share with us who you are and whose you are and what it means to be a district leader. And then we're going to move into all of the things that have Harlem on my mind and on our map across the country and across the world, especially now. So, hello.
Hello. I won't say what day this is.
No, actually, thank you very much. I would like the audience to know that we are pre-recording this show. Okay. We were supposed to, thank you so much, so sharp. We were supposed to have William Allen on last week, and that didn't happen, but in a week's time, in a day's time, so many different things do happen. So I'm very clear that all is in divine order and it can't get out of order. And I, actually always speak of that with one of my mentors, Queen Afua, who has written a book called Heal Thyself. So it is very important that you're on today, because what a difference a day makes, what a difference a week makes. So go right ahead, and it's pre-recorded. So when you see this
I
show
want to say
tomorrow,
good morning to your wonderful audience, and certainly want to say good morning or good day to you. I'm a City College kid, and you're a Lincoln University a girl, and just so happy to always be with you and be able to continue to educate your audience, because I have some really deep concerns about the current state of the Black press in America and in our community, and how information is flowing. And at some point, that's something I really also want to talk to you further about, and how we can be supportive. As a Democrat, I've been a Democratic district leader since I got elected in 1999. I can't believe it's almost 25 years.
Wow.
And so I'm now what they call a middle-aged, mature man. When I started, I was pretty much just a young guy. And as you get older, wisdom does arrive if you leave the door open, for the knowledge to come in. And so I'm just happy to now be a senior district leader and someone that can be a guidance and a resource to our community. Because often sometimes we think that voting is all that we do, but there's so many other moving components to a political participation. And I'm hoping that I'm that political educator that can share and train us, so therefore we can access and be successful in this kind of environment. So as a district leader, I get to help select judges, influence who gets the party nomination, how signatures are collected in the community for candidates running for office under the Democratic Party in particular. I get to approve what Democratic clubs or Democratic organizations get to wear our logo, and get to be an authentic voice with public officials as relates to the concerns of Democrats, particularly in the greater Harlem community. So I'm really honored to have this title. I always tell people this title is taking me to greater heights. I'm actually the last Black county elections chief as a Democrat in the state of New York. I did that for about 3 years, staff 150 people, election day, 10,000 workers. I've been the executive director of the New York County Democratic Party. And so many people don't have a county-wide, statewide perspective on political participation from our culture. And so I always like to fill in to help people understand the dynamics across counties and throughout the state, and how we can use the party to create and support public policy that really help our community, which tend to be a community of longstanding need.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. And it's very significant. For those of you who are joining, I'm Terri Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News. And today, and I repeat, we are pre-recorded. We do have William Allen, who is our district leader for Harlem. And he just really gave a breakdown of what a district leader, what does that mean? And how does it impact the community? And I think it is very, very significant as we're coming off of the, Dr. Martin Luther King Day, which we live the values of Dr. Martin Luther King every day. But it's very significant with all that's happening with the voting rights bill that just got taken down. And it's in the wake of Dr. King's birthday, which is really blasphemous. So if you would just shed a little bit of light on your take on what happened with the voting rights bill, what that actually means, how does it impact everybody, and particularly, how does it impact Harlem and quote, Harlems of the world, and what are next steps?
Yeah, and thank you for asking that question. By the way, I forgot to mention that as a district leader, Percy Sutton was a district leader, Basil Patterson was a district leader, Charlie Rangel is a district leader, Keith Wright. And so the seat and some of the most great political luminaries of Harlem, they've been district leaders before they moved on to public office, and have also been district while they've been in public office. So the Voting Rights Act, there was two bills, the Right to Vote and the John Lewis bill. As you know, they both did not pass. Recently, there was an effort to get these things passed in Congress, and it did not get passed. And as you know, currently, the voting situation in America has changed because of President Trump and the current Congress, along with the current conservative side of Congress and the current Supreme Court, has chipped away at the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that was pushed by the late Congressman Adam Clayton Powell. And lobbied by, so you got people come up and say Dr. King, but Adam Powell was the one of the Congress moving. All right. And so let's give him his credit. And Dr. King was helping to mobilize people on the ground. And we had other inside supports like a President Kennedy and a President Johnson, who actually President Johnson, if it wasn't for President Johnson, the act would have even passed Congress. And if you remember, I don't know if you remember, if you're a lover of history, Johnson said at that time, if this bill is passed, that was going to be, we're going to witness a mass migration of whites out of the Democratic Party and to another party. And that became the Republican Party. And so that whole coin of the Reagan Democrats who are Republicans happened because some white Americans thought that their power was going to be diminished. And so therefore they decided to go to another party. And all this, Terry, this stuff is all historical. Sometimes people think this stuff
Yes,
was
yes, very
yesterday,
important.
but
Very
it's
important.
tied back to the Civil War. It ties back to the Reconstruction period. It ties back to the Freeman Bureau, when former slaves were giving a massive amount of land in the South, and then the Great Compromise election of 1877, and going further, say, hold it, let's give the land back to the people that've been slave owners, and let's diminish the power of Blacks in the South, because at that time, Blacks were getting elected to Congress, the House, and the Senate. They were
Yes,
getting
yes,
elected to State
yes,
House and Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia, and throughout the South. We were getting political power, and we were getting economic power. Because,
yes,
you know,
absolutely.
and so sometimes we don't know how to talk about the two of those things, but political power means nothing if it does not tie to economic power. I mean, I could care less that I can vote, but if this voting means that I stay poor and don't have access to resources, it means very little to me. But if it's tied to inclusion, it's tied to opportunity, it's to whether it's education, schools, jobs, these are the things that's meaningful. And so this bill was to help to begin to stabilize or bring back some of the elements of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And unfortunately, we wasn't successful this time around. It's kind of sad when, as Dems, we control the House, and in the Senate, it's like 50-50. So I think we got to become more educated. I got a chance last week to be with the Mid-Manhattan branch of the NAACP. I want to thank Yolanda Payne, who's the secretary of that chapter, who invited me to join the panel. And often I'm on the panel for voting rights at the National Action Network through Dawn Jones. And I want to thank her, her leadership. That's right.
Yes, yes, I applaud Dawn Jones. Yes,
she's probably one of the most knowledgeable people in our community Voting Rights Act, and at some point, please invite her in.
Oh no, she's one of our regulars. She's very knowledgeable, and Dawn Jones is
Yolanda Payne.
She's diligent.
Yeah, invite Yolanda Payne. Certainly Jeffrey Eaton.
Yes,
the president, Anthony Harmon, who's the president of the New York branch of NAACP. These are all, and he's also the chief of staff of the United Federation of Teachers. These are all great.
What's the last person?
Anthony Harmon.
Anthony Harmon.
So
and you said
I'll be more than happy to give you all the contact.
Okay, and you said he's with the United Federation.
He's the chief of staff of the UFT, United Federation.
Okay.
But he's also former president of the Ethel Randolph Institute.
Okay, excellent. And give his name again, because I want the audience to really.
Anthony Harmon.
Anthony Harmon. Okay. And Harlem Network News, we are very much knowing that knowledge is power. And I don't want to skirt over things. So when you're saying that this is of the NAACP, can you break it down? What is the NAACP? Because we have a lot of young people that are watching, and they need to know what we're talking about, because our history has been wiped. I was speaking with my own granddaughter, who is 16, and I was saying something about the Million Man March and the Million Woman March, which I actually covered and documented the Million Woman March, and she was not familiar. So this is a very clear trend that our history is being wiped, and if we don't tell it, who will? So if you would just let our audience know, what is the NAACP, and give us a little
this is why they need to bring shows back like Team Summit. I mean, this is why I want to begin to have some discussion with the Black press. The Black press has an opportunity to educate this new generation on our history and and what should be our level of accountability. And because these vehicles are really kind of missing, and that a lot of us are getting news from sound bites and apps, and often it's not apps that come directly through our editorial involvement. We're missing stuff. I mean, when we were kids, in my home was the Amsterdam News. It was Jet Magazine. It was Ebony Magazine. It was the Beacon, New York Voice. I mean, it was a plethora of Black media, print, and even television. You had Gil Noble with Positively Black. No, is that no? No, he wasn't
Yeah,
Positively Black. He was the other show. Like It
yes,
Is.
yeah.
Gil
Yes,
Noble was
like it
Like
is,
It Is.
like it
And
is.
Gus
Yeah, he
and
was on
Gus
Channel 7.
Armendolf, I can't think of Gus' last name, out of New Jersey. He had Positively Black. And so those things came on every Sunday morning, just like Here and Now. And we had those things that what Gil Noble did, he would feature historical stuff and match it against contemporary time. And so you learned a lot. I mean, that's how I learned more about Malcolm X, even though, my family knew him and we're all in Harlem. But I learned more about Malcolm X through Gil Noble and Elam
Yes,
Brave.
yes,
That's how I learned, and so also back in the days when you were at Lincoln and I was at City College and Fordham,
absolutely.
Bronx, we had Black Studies department. So the
Yes, yes,
question is,
yes, we did.
how are young people learning their history for political empowerment and economic empowerment? We got to look at, what's going on in the schools, what's going on in the Black colleges. I mean, do they, I know it's a Black college, but do they teach the history?
Yes, yeah, and if they're teaching it, and this is Terri Wisdom, this is Harlem Network News, and as you know, Harlem Network News is a new media platform, and we want to assure that all are informed. So goes Harlem, so goes the world, and it is Harlem and the Harlems of the world. And I do want to say that I'm honored. My eldest granddaughter, Sahar, actually just officially graduated from Howard University, the great HBCU. We're very proud of her. We just got notification 2 days ago that she is officially a graduate, and she majored in psychology and she minored in African studies. So they're still teaching it, but it's very important that as the teachings are coming, that the teachings are deep dive. I also, minored in Black studies and I majored in media, but very, very important because like you said, I'm not that I have forgotten, but I do know that we grew up with an Ebony magazine, a Jet magazine as we were younger, of course, the Amsterdam News and all of these things. And that was the pinpoint, though they were magazines, but that's where you saw Eartha Kitt or you saw Martin Luther King even there was Life magazine, that wasn't a Black magazine, but it covered a lot of things. And not having a Gil Noble on and missing the historical point means that our history is not being documented. And this is a dangerous thing. And that does bring me to the fact that I had the honor of being invited to a film screening down at the Film Forum here in New York City on Houston Street. And Miss Sharon Salam, who is the mother of one of the exonerated 5, Yusef Salam, she had invited me, and she's very politically active. We are working diligently with Community Board 10, and all the other community boards have ratified it. We are putting a plaque to the exonerated 5 in Central Park, as well as next steps, having a monument to the exonerated 5 there. And this is very, very significant because the Conservancy, the Central Park Conservancy, has had a little, with little bumps, but we're getting there. All of the community boards, in Manhattan ratified this move. And they really don't have, for the most part, people that are living in Central Park that get monuments, but it's time. It is time. It's very significant. And we're hoping that on that plaque, we will actually see etched the faces of the exonerated 5, because this is important. If our history is not documented and we're not a part of history, lest we not forget, or lest we not remember. So very, very critical. But this film is called Who We Are, and it is at the Film Forum right now. It's a film by Jeffrey Robinson, who does lectures around the country. He is a Harvard scholar and does lectures on race. And the film is called Who We Are, and it's a chronicle of racism in America. And ironically, and I know this is where you will chime in on this, William Allen, District Leader, the film is by Emily Kunstler, and Sarah Kunstler. These are two white women who are the daughters of William Kunstler, who was one of our major civil rights attorneys and very instrumental in helping to get the Central Park 5 exonerated. So of course, Ms. Salam has a tie and a connection. She is also on the board of WBAI, one of our progressive radio stations, and there was a talk back after. And that film, we will be having the filmmakers as well as Jeffrey Robinson, who the film is really based on him and his journey. But in this film, he really journeys the history. So I'm going to throw it back to you, William Allen, a little bit long, but very important, our history, because I saw stuff in that film, just even the economic thing that you mentioned. There was a strong piece in there about Black Wall Street, out in Tulsa. And, just the visuals of seeing what it looked like, of seeing how these people, they were not a militia, the Blacks, after there was a little, something where supposedly a Black man in an elevator, but they burned down a whole town. And they were a direct result of what you were talking about, this economics after the Civil War, this, Black people being involved, Black people getting the vote. And even the fact, you can probably express this a little better than I, about the 3/5, Black people were being counted as 3/5 of a man. So if you would like speak to that and what that meant in terms of the voting rights.
Well, the whole 3/5 of a man was to mitigate and minimize Black folks being full American citizens. It was a formula like that really they came up with to say why we should not vote, be able to vote or participate in the as an equal citizen with equal rights in the American culture. That's what that meant, and that's how that was created. I mean, I can't go into all the historical details about it, but I do recall what Dr. Jeffries had shared with me and Dr. Hayward Burns at City College, and Dr. Robert Wilson, and Dr. Scobie, and Dr. Madeline Stent.
Yes. Dr. Scobie. Yes.
Scobie, these are all African American scholars.
Yes.
So these are the folks I learned from, and so they taught me a great deal. Even I remember Genesis Museum, Andy Owens, who's now in his 90s, and you can still find Harlem. I learned a great deal about our history, and I think his museum is going to be coming up soon. I'm going to be very happy about that. And at some point, I can give you his contact information.
Oh, thank you.
You can bring him on. But also, you mentioned Life magazine earlier, and so that brought me back to remembering Gordon Parks.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? He was able to use journalism and filmmaking to tell our story. His greatest work was The Learning Tree. And so and in today's art, we're making so much money through hip hop. I don't know if when I think about Motown and the music prior to that, and the music of the 70s and how it was also meant as for liberation, look like we've kind of moved away from our cultural arts, doing that for our young people. When hip hop first started with me and my age group, it was revolutionary.
Yes, it was
guns and drugs everywhere. Blah, 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 blah. It was almost like saying, what are you going to do about it? And Curtis Blow, Don't Stop Me, I'm Close to the Edge. I'm trying to get ahead, and so these are all positive themes. And so when your culture and your music appears to have been hijacked from a corporate perspective, it does impact the next generation, because now the next generation won't know about our historical gangs. They probably don't even know about the Exonerated Five. You mentioned that.
Yes, thank you very much. Because
and that was
if you would just share, because I'm just saying
that's
it.
old. You
Yes,
know, and
yes,
they don't.
yes.
And when we honor and when we recognize them, they don't. Some people may not realize what is the importance of that. What the importance is that what Black boys, Black men, and Black families have gone through as Americans when their rights are denied and they are not provided with with real justice. You know,
Mhm.
and you go back in time, you think of the Scottsboro boys
No
and
justice, no peace.
no peace. And I
No
just got finished
justice, no
watching
peace.
the Emmett Till series,
Yes.
women of the movement, and I watched that. And actually, I was watching. I got to tell you, Terry, it made me so angry, but it made me angry to take action.
Yes,
Not
yes,
angry to
yes.
sit down. Oh my God, look what these people do to it. It makes me
Mhm.
angry. Say, listen, we got to stay connected and involved because sometimes people think once you get power and rights, you don't have to. Oh yeah, we elected Obama as president, so now we can go on vacation.
Mhm.
And what I've learned about political power and
Mhm.
economic access, it has to be constantly managed. It's
Mhm.
not permanent.
No. Yeah, I'm
Not
glad
permanent.
yeah, I'm
Just like
glad
the
that
Voting Rights Act of 1965 was, oh yeah, this is going to be around forever. But look what happened. They've
yes,
been dismantling it. So
yes.
people they gotta stay engaged, and they cannot just say, oh yeah, let William and Terry and them go to all the meetings, and I'll go home and have dinner and dessert. Everybody
Mhm.
got to be involved and connected, and then
Yeah,
we all have an
everybody
obligation to know the
does.
history.
Yeah,
You know,
everybody does.
everybody
And
got to be involved. And it's not meant just for the scholars and the college educated. We all are responsible. You know,
mhm.
my grandmother did not have a college education. No, neither did her mother. But I got to tell you, they were two of the most educated women I ever met.
Mhm.
They knew their history. They knew the
Yes.
history of the country. I mean, I learned so much from them.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
because they came out of a culture where you had a responsibility.
Yes.
You know,
Yes, you
you had
did.
a
And
responsibility.
it's very interesting. I'm Terry Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News, and I'm here with our district leader from Harlem. And at the top of the show, he gave a breakdown of what the district leader does and how it's connected to the voting and, choosing judges and all of those things, an electoral meeting. So it's very, very critical. But I think you did touch on something because, I'm a little older than you, but I did grow up in an environment where our families were educated. They were politically educated. They were culturally educated. I always remember my grandmother and, just going back not too far. First of all, television just really came about in the early 50s. Let's
That's
get
right.
it
That's
straight.
right.
And a lot of things that happened, even the great fights of Joe Louis and so on and so forth, people were listening to the radio. Some of the Black, kind of shows like Amos and Andy and all that, it was on the radio. But when television first came, it was not color TV, it was black and white. And then it moved to a color television. And it was kind of, not the colors we see today. It was more neon red and neon yellow and neon blue. But the
Mm.
point is, I
Was
always
that put on the
remember,
screen?
yes, yes, I always remember
You have to
until,
make sure you
and
put it in the right direction.
yeah, until Sony came up with the Sony Triniton TV,
Yeah.
which made us have, color TV that was representative of, real, and it's been perfected. However, I remember my grandmother calling and she'd be like, turn on channel 4. They got, quote, colored on channel 4. And
Yes.
that was a thing. She would call every family member and you would turn on channel 4 because
That's right.
Black
That's right.
people were not on the TV. We were not. And
That's right.
even when you speak about the music, like MTV is now all these Black artists and everything, like you said, our music has been hijacked. But even when I was in, I would say my 30s, there was no Black people on MTV. The
Wow.
only Black
Right.
person that came on MTV was, I think, Michael Jackson, might
Michael
have been the
Jackson.
first. But I
Yeah.
remember we used to watch a show because at that time I was working 3 to 11 at Channel 11 or, PIX, NBC. And I remember I would come home from work, and then on a Saturday morning, I remember watching, and I don't know if it was, well, it was Soul Train, but maybe it was late at night, and it was on a UFT channel or some kind of channel 3 that you could put on your regular TV. This is pre-cable. And it was a show called Goldie Hot Locks. And that show was by Ralph McDaniels. And that's where you saw the Black music. It was not on MTV. So it's very interesting as to where they are. And art is very much directs what is happening in people's minds. It has a great impact. So the fact that you're saying our music was hijacked, because originally the rap music was grassroots. And like you said, Curtis, don't push me, I'm close to the edge. You know what I'm saying? It was really like unique. And I just remember, because my children were probably around 10 or something, but I just remember all little children in Harlem like dancing to the street, and and they knew all the words of the song. So music is impressionable, and art is impressionable to what people think. And it goes back to what you're saying in terms of media and the two sound bites that people are listening to. And this was something that was shared by one of our Black psychiatrists who came on the show, that once it's said on a media platform, especially a major media platform, even if you tell people something else that is the truth, they're not going to believe you. You know what I'm saying? So that's a very empowering thing about media. I remember when I was at Fordham University and, majoring in mass communications, and one of the books that we read was very significant, was a book by Marshall McLuhan. I'll never forget it. And it was, Is the Media the Message, or is the message the media? So very critical. But I want to bring it home where you mentioned coming out of, the Civil War, coming out of slavery, that, there were Blacks who were very involved in the government. They were voting, they were having economic power, which, Dr. King did speak about, that was very, very critical. But coming out of all of that, actually, police came out of, there wasn't like a whole bunch of police and police presence until after the emancipation. And a lot of that police activity was used to incarcerate Blacks for anything, because now they didn't have slavery. So they needed the people to work on the economics. So I want to segue for you to comment on that, and then to talk about what has happened in our community and what's going on with all of the connection of the Civil Rights Act being not passed, and here we are, and the violence that's happening, and the involvement of the police, as well as the mass incarceration of Black people and brown people like a Rikers. That's a mouthful, but it's real. And I know that you can,
freedom in America did not, freedom, the freedom of America is tied to capitalism, right? And so, right. I mean, if you look at slavery, it was a capitalist a system, right, that allowed the country to become a competitive in the world market, right? And so when slavery was ending, it's because the things that slaves were used for, that industry was changing, and there was no longer a need for that type of labor. And then you had the influx of white immigrants who was now really coming to America in heavy droves, and they were coming with other skills and things that was coming into the economy. I mean, the great speech by Booker T. Washington, the Atlanta Compromise speech, is something that your audience and you might want to review because it really speaks about politics and economics And here was a guy in the South trying to negotiate for a race of people. And after all that he did with white folk, he really wasn't listened to, because in the minds of white South at that time, we were vilified. And if they could at that time put us in a box and shipped us back to Africa, the white culture in the South would have been more than happy to have seen that. Right. And so that's why I said all this historical stuff is so important. And so here in New York, I want to bring things up to current day. Right now in New York State, you have a Black lieutenant governor. You have a Black majority leader of the state Senate. You have a Black speaker of the assembly. You got 2 Blacks serving as district attorney of 2 major counties in New York State, the Bronx and Manhattan. You got in New York City, the Democratic Party is led by Black people. Okay, the county leader in all the boroughs except for Staten Island is African American, right?
Wow.
And through the county comes the election of judges. And so while we as Blacks are in these, and then you got the amount of Blacks that's been elected to Congress from New York State. Right now, I think we have about 5. I think we have now 5 Blacks serving in Congress from New York State.
Wow.
You got 2 in Brooklyn. And even if you also recognize some of our Latino brothers who have African blood, but may not want to acknowledge it. So you got Espiat, who's Dominican, who I believe has African blood, and you got Vasquez. So that's 2 Latinos. And so then you get Hakeem Jeffries, you got Yvette Clarke, absolutely. You got Torres in the Bronx, you got Jamal Bowman, you got the brother that's all the way upstate New York. In fact, between the Bronx and upstate New York, you got 3 Black men in office. Oh, I'm sorry, 4.
Powerful.
And then 1, 2, 3. So you got that's like 6, 7. We got a large number.
Wow.
And it would be great if there was some discussion of the Black congressional delegation on voting rights and the issues relevant to Black New Yorkers. I haven't seen that gathering yet. I have not seen that gathering of that group talking to them. What are they seeing? What are they feeling? What are they pushing? What kind of help that they need? I would love to see that gathering. Right now in the New York City government, you have now a Black mayor, right? Who was a progressive police officer when he created Black in law enforcement. It was a radical group at that time when he created that. And then he became a state senator and borough president of the Brooklyn. So you got him as mayor. And you got, oh my goodness, you got a Black chancellor. I'm saying
chancellor of education.
Our people are now seeing themselves in all these critical roles. So if we're not out here telling the story of why that's important, then young people say, well, it doesn't mean nothing to see them elected. So boom, boom, boom. So we got to make sure that we are constantly, this is where the Black press becomes very, very important. They got to make sure the story is told and the questions from the culture is asked. It's asked. Like yourself, who are the new Gordon Parks? Who's the Black reporters of the New York Times or in the Black independent newspaper?
Absolutely.
Where are they? Here in Harlem, we just had some very different kind of elections. And I got to tell you, I'm a district leader. You're one of the few journalists, if any, I hear from. Calling me up and say, William, what's going on? And here I was, the National Crisis Director for the National Action Network. I've been a district leader for nearly 25 years. I am that one person that nominated Nelson Mandela for an honorary doctorate at City University. I was the first teenager appointed to a community board, the youngest person appointed to a school board. I was taught to be history. I was taught that I can make change. But I tell you, where's the dialogue with the Black journal? Where is it?
Okay.
And so I'm hoping, Terry, if we're going to look at this whole political climate, the Black press has to become stronger and visible. So therefore the story can be told. Because if you just wait for the politicians to tell it, you're going to be waiting a long time. But you guys, that fourth branch of government is so critical to our message. That's why Frederick Douglass created the North Star newspaper. And that the new Black newspaper that was created up in Boston. I can't remember that brother's name. And that told the story. Even when that movie, The Birth of the Nation, came out, and they were able to protest that through the newspaper, or Ida B. Wells. You know, our Black press and journalists, to a large part, helped to galvanize us around critical issues that was impacting us. And so if we don't quickly galvanize and organize that piece soon, then all this political placement that we have will be in naught, because we're not letting folks know how important it is to be in those roles. Very important. Right now, also in the city council, you have the first Black woman speaker of the New York City Council. You know, Adrienne Adams out of Queens.
Yeah.
And she helps to oversee a $1 billion budget. The mayor gets to propose the budget, but the speaker moves on the budget. Huh?
Okay. Well, say her name again.
Adrienne Adams.
Okay.
Adrienne Adams, City Councilwoman Adrienne Adams is the Speaker of the New York City Council.
Wow. Okay. And what are the dynamics that brought her to that? Because those of us who are watching the news, the sound bites, we know that there was some pushback, you know, of her becoming the speaker. What are the dynamics that brought her there? Why did some people not want her? Why did others want her? And what is the significance of her being there?
She won the seat with only not getting 2 votes out of the council. So I don't know who these people are. She only lost a total of 2 votes out of the entire membership. Only 2 people out of the entire membership did not vote for her. And those 2 people were Black people.
Right.
2 Black people decided not to put a Black woman for the seat. And the excuse was, oh, they have closed private meetings. Let's hold it. Well, to my understanding, doesn't the socials have private meetings too? I mean, most political parties have private meetings open to their own membership. So I don't understand, what do you mean by private? You know, because that's how people openly discuss things. And if you want to participate, say, hey, I want more participation. You got to work on those kind of things. So I think when I heard that our Harlem representative did not vote for her and did not sit down with us first, you know, if she's so concerned about us, then why?
And when you're speaking, it's very important. And this is not necessarily calling anyone out, but we are here, and knowledge is power, and it's education. So when you speak of our Harlem representative, who are you speaking of, and what?
Christian Richardson Jordan.
Okay.
To me, if she felt so strongly about what she thought about, and she's against closed door meetings, well, why don't she organize the community, or at least those of us who are elected? Hey guys, I need to sit down with you guys and let you know what I'm thinking, and I want to get your feedback. You know, you cannot criticize closed door and all this kind of stuff when you have not invited any of us to meet with you to discuss these issues impacting our community. You know, this is not a monarchy. If you're so against the machine and powerful men, then you're acting worse than the things that you're claiming that they're doing. You know, if you want to be the leader, call us together.
Okay. Yes, I think it's very important.
Call us together, hey, I want to meet with you guys to discuss my position, we'll come. We'll come. So that doesn't mean that we're coming to agree with you on all points, but we're willing to come to the table at least to begin to have a discussion on how we need to work together and move forward. And guess what? We're not going to agree on everything.
No, we're going to agree to disagree. And
we got to agree to disagree.
It's extremely important. And I am grateful and happy, and I think it's significant. Our council person, our new council person, Christian Jordan Richardson, has been on our show, Harlem Network News, and I'm Terri Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News. She has been on twice, and that's very significant because she was able to tell her own story, and it takes it a little bit further, but it's very important that our community, whether we're in agreement, whether we're old guard, new guard, we must work collectively because, unity and community, these are statements, but they're real in terms of what happens. And as a media, I understand that media is directing a lot. And one of my platforms
It's where
for this
where the
2020,
Black press can play a role in.
yes,
The
yes,
Black
absolutely.
press, the
And
Black press can
if you're
with Black collectives in their communities, you
Yes.
guys can say, "Hey, Christian, we want to see you guys meeting."
yes,
Y'all can raise
yes.
and why you're not meeting?
Yes,
You can
yes.
raise
So that's the role that I think is important. Our voices must be heard. The media is the message, and so we've got to direct that, particularly in our community. And I am reaching out, in the process of reaching out to all of our public officials, to our mayor, to really ensure that there are certain initiatives and support that is given for the inclusion and leadership of the Black press. And I'm going to start that with Harlem Network News, because we have been on the front line and we are small, but I see the impact of what we do. I have all the public officials on. Congressman Espion's office calls me on a regular. He is going to be doing, like, I guess, the state of, New York, or the state of, his district speech. That's coming up on Thursday. And, his office calls and he said, "Can you share the link?" And yes, I will, because I think it's important as a media person. I'm not really taking sides with this person or that person. However, if they're coming with information that the people need, it's my duty to do that so that people can be informed and really know what's happening. And like you said,
if you notice anything I said about Councilman Jordan Richardson, if you notice, it's nothing against her personally.
Of course.
It's really about leadership, and it's about what is the job you're elected to, and why it's important for us to get together. And I listen. My family, we've been involved in community affairs in Harlem for a long time, but so I'm not going to criticize other folks who now have just arrived, even though they've been here for generations and no one can find any note that they've been involved in anything,
Right.
But I'm not going to be critical like that, even though I put that on the table, and I'm not going to be critical of talking about a machine and this and that, because I know for a fact when I grew up in Harlem, I remember being able to go to meetings of Percy Sutton, and he had his Martin Luther King Democrat meetings, and the door was open. Anybody can go. I remember when Councilman Fred Samuel had the Community Democratic Club of Harlem on 7th Avenue between 136th and 135th Street. And he had meetings twice a week, Monday and Thursday. Guess what? The doors were open. I remember Geraldine Daniels having meetings in the communities, and the doors were not locked. They were open. I saw Keith Wright with the new Fred Samuel Club and Wilma Brown Phillips. And guess what? They hold meetings and the doors are open. Al Taylor and Denny Farrell hold Democratic meetings up in the northern part of Harlem. And guess what? The doors are open. Eddie Gibbs over in East Harlem.
Right.
Young
okay. So speak a little bit.
And his doors are open.
Speak a bit about Eddie Gibbs, because we've been seeing him on the news in the 2-minute sound bites. So, he's been telling a bit of his story, but like you said, it's important that we're informed, because if we're informed and the fire is lit under the community, then they will get involved. And like you said, a lot of it
That's why the Black press is important, because the fire gets lit through you guys reporting it. That you out there telling the story, and when folks are running, reporting on what these people's backgrounds are and their qualifications. And so if the Black press is not reporting this stuff, how does the community get to know this stuff, right? So
Right.
candidates can run and put their bio out, but that's them doing their own bio. But if we have a strong press, you able to put out the bio that translate to this community, and that makes a huge difference. And so Eddie Gibbs, my colleague as a fellow district leader, is incredible. I mean, I saw people did not think that he was going to get that seat, and Eddie did the work. Eddie is grassroots. He organized his county committee. He made sure they came to the meeting. And he said, listen, he said, I'm going to get there because I did the work. I'm going to get there because I'm a son of the greater Harlem community. He's formerly incarcerated. He went through a lot as a young person.
So powerful,
and he was incarcerated for defending his life. Someone was trying to take his life, and so he had to defend himself, and that's why he was incarcerated. He'll tell his full story. And what I know about Eddie talks to everybody. Eddie walks the streets. Eddie, last year, Eddie must have invited me to so many things in the community. It was so grassroots. I said, Eddie, wow, this is great. He said, William, I believe in family, and family is community. And this is how we do it. And he said, if we do more of this, people will feel more engaged and they will participate. And Eddie and I got a chance to talk about the Black press, and how it's important. So, you'll get the chance to talk to him about it too. He recognized how important this is. I mean, back in the day of Carl McCall and Percy Sutton, them, they all had columns in the Black press telling what they were doing.
Right.
They had monthly columns that kept the community up to date on their work, so folks can question them and be informed. Where is that?
Right. Thank you. Thank you, William Allen. William Allen is our district leader, but he's got a very interesting slant on media and politics, because he also definitely has that politics and the history combining. Because as you've said that, and I'm always inspired by you, as you just said that, yes, very important that we bring back the column, of what these people are saying, because when you do it in a 2-minute soundbite, it's very difficult for people to remember and understand what's happening. But if you put it, and then you've got to get people to read it, but it's critical that people get the full information of who's doing what. And Harlem Network News, we're going to really take some initiatives to ensure that all of our public officials are meeting. I implore you as the district leader to get out there and make everybody come in and sit around the table, because our very lives are at stake. And we can see that even from last week to this week, our lives are at stake.
We are in danger. I would love for the Black press to ask our public officials to commit to a monthly town hall meeting.
Okay.
Whether remotely or in person once the pandemic lifts up. So if they have a monthly, at least once a month, a town hall meetings where residents, folks can ask questions, this would be great. It would be great if the city and the state can get together and create some kind of digital bulletin board on the plaza of the state office building, especially for seniors, to announce all these meetings. And, or where to get information about community meetings or resources. We gotta, there's nothing there being advertised to say anything.
Right. Thank you so much.
We got to think of so as the Black press, which is communication, how do we come up with the communication tools that from kids to folks in their 90s and beyond can get access to and be kept fully informed? And by them being informed, Terri, then they can be held accountable.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. You're just such an innovative and, I say, a brilliant mind. So I appreciate you coming on there. You always push me to do my homework. I always learn so much from you. And you said something when you talked about the political power, and people don't want to do anything and they don't want to get engaged if they can't see the economic value. So as we speak about that, we have been having a siege, a rage of crime and violence, really all over New York City, but even more so, and I don't know if this is true or not, I would say even more so in the Black and brown communities. But the reason I say I don't know what's exactly true, because I don't have access to the real stats, and pretty much it's often spun that the crime and violence is in the Black community. But I will say that I think it's all tied together. I'm Terri Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News, and I'm here with our district leader as we count down to the end of the show, William Allen. And we're speaking about everything Harlem and Harlems of the world and all the things that have transpired this week. But we're under siege with violence. Everyone knows that we had worldwide, people know that we had 2 police officers that were shot and killed, and also the perpetrator was shot and killed in an incident that happened last week. Here in Harlem, it was really a domestic violence situation, and out of that domestic violence situation, the police responded to a call, and the person who is the perpetrator actually, from my knowledge, opened fire, and 2 very young police, 22, 28, in the 32nd precinct, right on 135th, which is steps from our councilperson, Christian Jordan Richardson's office, because she's brought her office out of the state office building onto almost street level, so that there's more accessibility. But there's been so much dialogue about this. It's been suddenly all eyes on Harlem because of this crime. But I think we've really got to do a dissect on what exactly happened. There is a rash of violence. There is, Black and brown killing Black and brown people. There's police, killing Black and brown people. There's people pushing people off the subway tracks. All of this is violence. There's stabbings. Even the 19 people in the Bronx that were killed in the fire. All of that's violence. But if we get to the base of a lot of these kinds of violences that are happening, there's an economic base to it. There is like developers that are coming in here to really just out of greed, like just start building high rises. They don't care if there's enough subway support. They don't care when they say, that we have affordable housing. Affordable to who? They are pushing Black and brown people out into the street, which in my opinion is why you have the homelessness. It is also why you have the mental health issues. So we got to get to the base of what's happening. But I just want to say it's concerning that the police officers were shot and killed. Concerning. No, that should not happen. But we've got to look at the person who was the perpetrator, and the police shot at him. And I hear the police commissioner calling him a thug. We got to look at the language, and we got to look at what we're saying, because this, in my mind, looked like it's a mental health issue. It's a mother who had a situation with her child, be the child 47 or not, and she was calling for help. In this instance, it looks like the police came in on the right note. They're trying to talk, and they ended up to get blazed. But we've got to understand that these things have to be gotten to before it gets to that. And there is no platform for mental health. And Mayor Adams, the prior mayor, had some, mental health thing where millions of dollars went in. The Black race thing, millions of dollars went in. The first lady was heading that. Where is that money, and what actually happened? Because that's the crux of what we've got to look to. My opinion, my editorial, Harlem Network News opinion editorial. But if you would address that, because I also feel it's a crime and a shame. I'm glad you're coming to New York City, President Biden. I hope you come to Harlem, but it shouldn't take 2 officers being killed for you to recognize that you need to come here. You should have been here before. Vice President Kamala Harris, you need to be here because we help to put you in office and we matter. So I'll let you take it from there. I'm passionate.
That's a lot to take. Jeez.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Ron, let me just give my condolences to the families.
Yes.
And I like to also give my condolences to the neighbors or the people who had this horrific situation happen on their block. No one's really talking about post-traumatic experiences for even folks that are in the pit of violence. And I'm concerned about how 2 young police officers can be sent into that kind of situation. And what can, and while I really want to share my deepest condolences, I'm also a professor of public administration, and I'm just curious on, could something have been done differently? Was the 2 young police officers given the proper resources? If it was a domestic violence call, what is the actual protocol? When the call was made for help, what was said? I would really like to know the whole story so we can ensure that this doesn't happen again to any law enforcement personnel, but more importantly, to anything. I mean, I could imagine when that when the man was apparently, for him to want to kill somebody, something must have been inherently wrong with him. And did he actually meant it for those police officers, or was he trying to kill his mother and his brother? And so there's a lot of information that we need. And so I'm not going to participate in the name calling that I saw happen over the last couple of weeks, of villain versus blue. And this guy, we got to learn from these things of how to make things better, how to manage crisis better, how to care for what kind of society that we want to be. And I got to tell you, those 2 young men was 2 young men of color, right?
Absolutely.
And they were Dominican.
Absolutely.
And so there's and the shooter was African American. And so I want to be able to discuss the role of Blacks in law enforcement in New York State, New York City, in terms of how the recruitment program is designed to recruit Black males. I mean, I teach at John Jay, and every school year, the number of Black males in my classes, or I see around the campus, is grossly disappearing.
Okay. Interesting.
And I know people say, well, I don't know if, having Blacks or brown people in the department is going to make a difference. I think it does make a difference.
And if it doesn't, it should make a difference.
It should.
It should. If it doesn't,
the department is critical. And now that you got a Black police commissioner, woman, and I'm hoping that she gets the support to bring these issues to the table. You now have a deputy, the first deputy mayor for public safety has now been established, who happens to be a Black man. We really need to begin to look at how police officers are recruited from the Black community, right? And how Black communities are policed, and how poor communities are policed, and the resources, right? So therefore we can avoid another tragic end to anybody.
Yes.
So the question for me is, did we fail those 2 young police officers? Were they sent into a situation that could have been different? Did they? I mean, you're 22. I know my 22-year-old students. are not
Right.
fully equipped. How did a 22-year-old get sent into something like that? I'm a little, and the other guy, he's in his 27. They both
Yeah.
were under 30.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Right.
Did they have all the resources needed to be effective so they can still tell their story today?
Right. Absolutely. And I'm in agreement
You
with
know,
you.
and
And
so
I'm
this is our
glad.
opportunity to really have a real discussion about public safety in New York City and stop vilifying people. Let's look at these institutions. Let's see if they require resource. This is a chance. Let's just don't let the death of those three of them. Don't let the deaths go in vain. Let's use
Yes.
it as an
Yes.
opportunity to
Yes.
make it
Yes.
better.
Yes. Yes.
And because
And
I remember, I heard
thank
the
you.
story of Rivera, and I loved his story. And he had seemed like he had a very progressive mind. He wanted to go in to make things better, you know. And so if that's what his thinking was, stop memorializing his death to be something else. But more likely say, what was his story? How did we fail him?
Yes. Thank
How
you.
did you send him into slaughter? You know, just don't blame the shooter. What could have been done differently in that situation? So as a professor, I teach by case method, right? What cases that we looked at in the past, where can we make sure in the future this kind of situation does not happen? Does not happen. You know, why don't we have more foot patrol? Why don't we have more block associations that's empowered? I mean, June Moses is the president of the resident council on that block. Are people sitting down with her about what she's going? She'll tell you they're in the fight of their life over there as tenants. They're going through a lot. And who's sitting down with them? Okay, that whole block has been now traumatized. Are they being offered counseling and therapy and guidance and resources to address what they just went through?
Yes. No.
Could you imagine living in that building where this occurred? You know, I mean, really?
Yes, I'm going to share a little bit of something, and I'm glad you're touching on this because as many of you know, I lost my 43-year-old son to gun violence. He was shot on November 5th. He was shot on the Shinnecock Reservation.
Wow.
We do not know why he was shot. We don't know who shot him. We know he was shot assassination style, like one bullet straight through the heart. And because it's a Shinnecock Native American reservation, and we have family that live there. You know, my son.
This is out the Hamptons,
yes,
right?
it's in Southampton, New York. And so it's only the state police can come in. They are doing their investigation, but nobody's talking. As we know in our community, often snitches get stitches. So people may know, but they're not really saying. But I say that to say that that day when this had happened, I had really had a meeting with the investigators, just trying to move it forward. And I had to come in from Southampton, came home to Harlem, and our offices are near there. And I was traumatized. I was traumatized from the meeting. I was traumatized because if somebody's out there, I don't know if I'm in danger, my whole family's in danger, and a lot of times the crimes that happen to our people are never solved. Nobody ever knows what happened because in some instances, we just don't matter. It's another.
My own brother was murdered. I still don't know all the facts associated with his murder as a teenager.
Yeah. And I joined Harlem Mothers Save with Jackie Rowe Adams.
Me too.
I had her on, joined it right away. The very first meeting they had after my son died. But the point is the post-traumatic stress that we're dealing with, because when I came back to the neighborhood, and like I said, our offices are near. And, I went to turn into the block and they were telling me I couldn't drive in. And I was like, I live here, but I'm just saying this is the trauma of the community where we're constantly looking over our shoulder. And now, Mayor Adams and the police commissioners, they are bringing back the plainclothes situation. So out of this, which was a domestic violence situation, as far as I'm concerned, a mental health situation, a mother whose another mother whose son is dead, though he shot 2 other people. So there's 3 bodies right now in our community. It's 3 body bags. And we've got to begin to look at the whole holistic situation. I'm Terri Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News. But like you said, the community, the people that live in that building, the same way with a fire, they're looking at the trauma that these people that lost the 19 lives. So this is once again trauma. So now our community is going to be back in encampment with police who are stopping and frisking us, and they already here. And now something that happened that really doesn't have to necessarily do with crime, though we know there's crime in the community, that's impacting us. And, you know, I did hear Mayor Adams say, oh, the Plains police are gonna have something identifiable on them. They're gonna have a body cam. But the problem before was that people would be approached. They don't know who it was that was approaching them. So we've got to look at this and we've got to work this. And I am asking Mayor Adams, excuse me, the police commissioner, everybody to sit down with the holistic community, our public officials, our community members, and see how do you think we think it should be dealt with. That's, you got to get to the nit and
this is why a strong Black press is so.
Thank you.
I keep bringing it back. I'm sorry,
yes,
Terri.
You do. No. You're doing the right thing.
It's critical. It's critical. It's critical. It's critical.
Yeah. So as we're gonna wrap up, wind down.
So that's why. So getting back to the mayor. So having a Black mayor, Black police commissioner, a Black deputy mayor of public safety, what they do next is so critical for continued Black civic education and engagement. Because if the murder on 135th Street does not bring about another method, it's you know, it could be a lost opportunity. If all we do is increase the number of law enforcement to go find the iron pipeline, people keep blaming the guns when the guns are in the hands of people. And so why we gotta work, we have to work on 2 tracks here. You gotta of course work on that gun industry, but you also gotta work on the fact of the mental health and why people are attracted to these guns and using these guns this way. You know, you know, for example, you know, I always tell people poverty based with race always leads to crime. And so if you look at our incarcerated population, they come from certain zip codes, but yet the state does not increase the resources to those zip codes or to the schools where those that's located in the zip code to begin to stop the pipeline. So there got to be like real discussion from all corners of the community around this issue. As you know, the mayor just issued his blueprint to end gun violence. And I would love to see the Black press really have a real discussion with him about it. I would love to see communities, community boards host a discussion about it. You know, you got the blueprint out. Then let's, as a community board, why can't we hold a public hearing and gather data in our community on that? Let's use that as a way to have a discussion of how we feel. You know, not this, you know, when the blueprint was written, I mean, who was the writers? Who was involved? So let's give the mayor the input that's required in a democracy. That we got to make sure that people are weighing in and that they're expressing themselves and they're giving their views. So therefore, we can come up with the best way to address these horrific issues. Because if we think just removing just the guns alone, right, is not going to solve the problems of poverty.
Yes.
It's not going to solve the problem of bad schools.
Yes.
Because
education.
I can live in a safe community and have no job. I can live in a safe community and have bad schools. Yes. I can live in a safe community and have bad housing. Okay. Yes. I can live in a safe community and walk down blocks and blocks where I cannot own my own business in my own neighborhood. Thank you. Safety alone does not mean economic prosperity. But if you begin to create economic opportunities and improve our institutions, you would drastically decrease crime in our society. So when people don't have access to success and to resources, they change to this other kind of behavior. And so unless we're going to have this holistic discussion,
Thank you. That's one of
it
my
won't
words.
change.
Holistic discussion.
It will not
Thank
change.
you. Thank
You know,
you.
and
Thank
I'm not
you.
here to, build up a militia. I want to see the people built up.
Okay.
Put the power with regular people. Let people feel that they can form a safe block association, a tenant group, that they can be encouraged to be engaged. Let's get that digital board up on 125th Street so community board can advertise its meetings.
Yes.
I want to be able to say, community board meeting, community board 10, have 500 people show up every month to their meeting. And that they create a survey instrument where people can constantly weigh in. Maybe the community boards need to have a survey committee that's constantly coming up with survey issues on a sample population of the community, and they bring back their survey back to the board. I mean, there's all kind of different ways to increase engagement and to get information. So therefore, we can truly become that great community we was when we started doing the Harlem Docs.
Okay, well, thank you. This has been Harlem Network News, and we're pre-recorded on a Saturday, so you're going to see it on Sunday. So our normal Sunday 4 o'clock, please join us. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, because we do need to broaden. We've got great content at Harlem Network News. We've got great community leaders, and I always learn when our district leader, William Allen, comes on. He is brilliant. And I've been taking notes. I'm Terri Wisdom.
I hope to be with her every week if she allows me. We're gonna fine tune this so we can give these updates.
Okay.
Because if you and I can start the script of the Black Press here and begin to, maybe one of the panel discussions we can have through your show is invite key Black journalists to discuss the role of the Black press. Maybe we need to start meeting. And by the way, Terri, my background is journalism. I was the first non-white editor-in-chief of the campus newspaper, the longest and oldest newspaper in the history of our country at City College, called The Campus.
Okay.
While I was a senior at City College, I was a stringer at the New York Times. And my first job out of college was being a reporter and writer for Times Journal in DC. And then I got recruited by the New York Daily News and spent a year. So I believe, so people don't know that about me.
Okay.
So I really want to, we got to push this. We really do.
Thank you.
And I think that's the piece that's missing. Our people just don't have access to solid information. They're going in with all these conspiracy theories because they're on the internet and they're picking stuff up and it's not coming from us, because we are not hosting the kind of dialogue where people can have really solid information.
Yeah, and it's access to our youth, our middle-aged community, and our seniors.
And our seniors.
Much access because, I do find that when I say the middle-aged, and these are parents like from the 30s to the 40s that are not engaged. So it's very critical. And they're not engaged because first of all, they're busy, they're overwhelmed with survival. But they also don't think that whatever they do matters, and they don't necessarily feel that the public officials represent them and are doing the things that would show change, which once again gets back to economics. And it does have to happen in the schools. They probably need to have circles with the kids every day. I know when my children went to school in East Harlem, it was a progressive school, Central Park East, but they had a little session. They had journaling, and they also had a little session every day called Pull Up and Strokes. And in Pull Up and Strokes, they would, pull up the good things and then try to talk about the bad things and stroke it. So like you said, our community, our children as well, we are in a post-traumatic stress situation. There's gangs, is why there's 13-year-olds bringing guns to school and because they're scared, so we've really got to do the deep dive into the educating of the minds of the young people and the parents. You can't educate the kids if you're not educating the parents.
That's right.
You know, so we have a lot. So in our closing statement, I'm going to let you take it out. I'm Terri Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News. Please join us, support us, watch us. If you have news and information, share it. We're a pipeline for that. You know, if you can make a economic contribution, that would be wonderful too, because it helps us to do the things. I implore, now that we have this government that's representative of us, with, you know, people of color and people of care, you know, I want to see some funding come to a Harlem Network News so we can really, you know, hire more people, get those stories out, get the newsletters, write the column. That's what we need. So please, you can reach us at harlemnetworknews@gmail.com. You can reach us on the phone at 646-261-5397, or, you know, you can also go to harlemnetworknews.com or inbox us on Instagram, Facebook. You know, let's get it done. So if you would just close us out with a final statement, and we do just continue to be in prayer for all the lives that have been lost, that most recently that was really raised up and put in front of us. And as I said, I'm a mother, my son is a victim of violence, so this is close to my heart. So an 18-year-old who is the niece of officials died in that Burger King account. We have a lot going on. And then just with the housing and the economics, you know, we lost all these people in fires, you know, so we got to look at what is happening, and we can make a difference. So close us out, just Leader William Allen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, listeners and audience of this great show, and of this great journalist, Terri Wisdom. You know, in our society, there are always incidents that can cause a response from us. Either we can respond one way, or we can respond the other. But all these situations mean that it's an opportunity to be educated, and how do we make a better society, you know, and at the least cost, you know. And so the death of these two young police officers really hit all of us in our heart. And many of us are led to believe, could that matter for them have been different? And I'm hoping that that information will come out, because two young police officers sit in that kind of situation, and who knows what all the information is around that situation. Could they still be alive today? And then for that mother who called in desperate need of help, could she have had the resources to better handle that situation, where she didn't have to call the cops? She could have called a community reentry organization that deals with people that were formerly incarcerated. Could they have come and help or offer program support to her son and to her? I mean, so many ideas are going through my head in terms of what could have been done differently, how could everybody have been helped, you know, and how not to vilify any part of this, you know, but how do we use it as a lesson to make policing and community a better public experience? So I'm hoping over the weeks and the months ahead that we can find these answers for you. So please stay tuned to this network, Harlem Network News.
Okay, well said, well done. Thank you, District Leader William Allen, and thank you, community. We're still here, and still we rise. This is Terri Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News. Have a great day. Blessings and prayers for us all. Thank you. We matter. Yes, we do. Thank you.
So good.